Welcome to the Malibu studio. I'm food and fitness coach Lori Corbin. I'm with Jared Tavasolian. Did I say that right?
You got it.
Okay. He's a trainer and a health coach, and he's got a really cool test that we're going to hear about today that I took, and I'm mighty proud I did, so it's really great. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk about some of the things. I mean, everybody that is interested in their health obviously wants to know what's the best way to eat, what's the best way to move, all that kind of stuff. And I heard Jared speak at Malibu Fitness once, and he gave this really cool talk. You just have a really nice, kind of easy flow about food and kind of your overall life. So maybe just kind of give me your general philosophy about when people come in and they're like, help me. You say, well, let's consider a few things, right?
Yeah, it really depends on where the person is coming from. But what I see a lot is people have all of these things that they've built up in their mind around nutrition, what it takes to be healthy, and those things actually keep them stuck. And then also, there's so much information around that people don't know where to turn. And so, if you're on Instagram or Facebook following any media, one person is probably following 15 different protocols because they see this girl doing this or this guy doing that, and they're incorporating it all, and then there's just chaos. So I try to calm all that stuff down so they can follow a direct path to connecting with themselves, because what I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen also, is health is a series of trends. It's the Mediterranean diet, the keto diet, the vegan diet, and people are just jumping from thing to thing, and they forget that they're the most important part, and they forget to create that awareness. And so that's what I teach when I'm working with most of my clients.
I'm sure that's hard to get somebody to think totally about themselves too, even though I guess by and large we're selfish. But in real life you say, am I really doing a good job? I mean, and I think now maybe you get people that come and are totally clueless, but are you getting more of a sophisticated person, but to your point, they're just confused?
Both. And either they're new or they're in it. They're both confused, and they don't know what they're doing, because either they're paralyzed by too much information or by not enough information, and so they end up in the same place, really.
Right.
Yeah.
That's scary. But I also think one thing I liked about Jared's chat was you did address just life. Giving it a rest, giving it a relax, giving it a moment, thinking about just life skills. Like, I don't even want to go to meditation, although that's super important, but more you were saying, you might change the way you eat if you thought about your day a little differently.
Yeah, definitely. I think, again, you've been in the game a long time, and I've been doing this for over 22 years now. And in the beginning, there was probably this element of, okay, we have to eat whole, organic food, and it was about the food that we ate. And it still is, but for most people, they're just running around nonstop. They got kids, work, all the things that keep them stuck, and they forget to slow down and pay attention to themselves. So yeah, it's become a lot about the nervous system now, how we calm the nervous system, because we know for a fact that if you're in fight or flight, so if you're on overdrive or red alert, which most everybody is these days, we produce 50% less enzymes and hydrochloric acid. So people are doing their best trying to eat food, but they're not digesting their food because they're in fight or flight. And that's where it starts. So we used to talk about like calories in, calories out. And then it was like, oh, it's really about your metabolism and your hormones. But really the thing that guides it all at the top is your nervous system.
Yes, isn't that wild?
And so everybody is on overload, and health has become a full-time job. If you go on any Instagram of any influencer, you got a cold plunge, you got a hot sauna, you got to get out in the sun 20 minutes in the morning, meditate, journal, eat, take 100 superfoods. The average person, they just really need to take a space in their day and sit down and eat a meal.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, and not do anything else. And I find that so typical. I will still say, oh my gosh, first I laughed the other day when someone said, oh, well, do you read? I'm like, yeah, I got to admit, if I don't have anything, then I'm going to grab the ingredient list of whatever's on the counter. I can't just stare at the plate, right? But you should.
Yeah, I mean, just to take space. I think that everything that health has become is about adding. Everyone's adding. You got to add this and add this, when really it's about subtracting. And what I see, and one thing I talk about with any client that I work with is, what they do is, imagine you're at a buffet, right? And you go to the buffet and you start piling things on your plate. Well, at some point, your plate is full, but what they want to do is then pile stuff on top. And when I work with them, I'm saying like, okay, what can you take away in your life to make space for this new thing? Mm-hmm. And that's a battle for a lot of people.
That is hard. I gotta admit. So kind of funny story, because I go to this guy. He's kind of a brain to body guy, and when you are a person that feels like you've got it together, you might be one of those people. I kind of think I am, right? And then something happens, and it's almost a tipping point. To your point, I had the full plate, and I'm thinking I'm so good, and then something happens that someone suggests to me I might have this one issue, and then I lose it because I'm thinking, how could that be? Because I'm doing all these things. And then I'm thinking, I don't know anything. I mean, just that's how your monkey brain will work. I then therefore do not know what the heck I'm doing. Yeah. And then you kind of need someone like yourself, in my opinion, to say, you do know a lot, but you let your thoughts bother you more than what is reality. True. And I think that was and I literally had to have someone tell me that, which I laughed. I'm like, I can't believe I had to have someone tell me that, but I kind of had a moment, and it was it just was leading a build up, you know what I mean? Because I think I was trying pretty hard to do some things, and then it didn't seem achievable at the moment. I'm like, I absolutely know, I guess I don't know anything anymore. Yeah, I'm done, hanging it up.
I think it's normal. I think, a good coach has a coach.
Yes.
Like coaches need coaches too. We're human.
Absolutely.
And we follow the same things that our clients or people we're working with go into. It's just, maybe sometimes we know how to get out of it faster, or we've had enough experience. But when it comes to me, I have my mentors who I rely on, because I can't see through myself sometimes.
Right. Okay, so we then have established we need to take a breath. We need to kind of enjoy and maybe appreciate our life a little bit more, hug our kids, or just look at that flower out there in the yard. So then with their food, you probably have a reasonable protocol then, nutrition-wise. You didn't pick a keto or a paleo or whatever. Yeah. You probably say, what's your base? In a perfect world, I'd like people to kind of go with this rendition of nutrition.
Yeah, so as probably you have, I've been through the gamut, and every time I did something, I thought, this is the way. And it was for a while, and then there's a point of diminishing return where everything I did had some consequence. Whether it was when I did keto, it was a consequence with my sleep, recovery, and sex drive. When I did vegan stuff, it was the same. When I did other things, it might have been a consequence of like, I'll go to a social gathering, but I don't eat with everyone else, or everything came with a price. And I was tired of paying that price. And I met a mentor who kind of led me into, now it's just more balanced. And I firmly believe that unless you have an anaphylactic reaction to something, we create most of the problems in our head. And I've seen it over and over again. Yeah. I'll give you an example. I talked to a client and I'm like, well, what are you eating? And she's like, oh, I eat eggs, milk, all these things that she would name off. I was like, great. We were finding that she wasn't sleeping well at night. And I thought maybe she could use a little bit of ice cream at bed before. Ooh. I know, just to like calm her nervous system down and go to bed. I can never eat ice cream. It's like, why? Because she created this negative connotation. Oh. And I'm not saying go out and eat a pint, but like, she wouldn't sit with her kids and have ice cream.
Right.
And I was like, but you eat egg yolks, you eat cream in your coffee, you have milk.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a little bit of sugar, but you put it all together, that's ice cream.
Yeah, and maybe this much.
Yeah, but she created this thing about it, and we do it with so many things. And I've found that our minds create the biggest hurdle. And for a lot of my clients that heal, their body heals, and it takes their mind a while to catch up to the belief system.
Yeah, knowledge may be too much power at this point, right?
Yeah, and that's what people are. They're paralyzed. There's so many people reading, learning, but without applying it consistently, it happens. And I always say, like, health is not a destination. You don't get to a point where you're like, I did it.
I'm so good now.
No, because life is changing all the time.
Yes.
And I was talking to a client earlier, and I was like, I've been on this journey for a long time. I woke up this morning and I was exhausted because I didn't eat enough carbs. I didn't take care of myself. I played basketball and then went rock climbing with my friends. I know I need to take it easy today.
Yes.
It's an ebb and flow.
Yes.
So I don't have a fixed approach to nutrition.
I like that.
I like to say that like whole foods are best. I focus all my meals on quality proteins. And I like to give the good, better, best so that people start to lose some of the barriers they've created. So if a client can eat, GMO-free wheat and get away with it and not feel bad, a little bit is okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I like
these
that.
are the things. And when you look at the blue zones, there's a lot of debate on, well, they don't eat a lot of protein, or they eat a lot of protein, or they do. But at the end of the day, they have social connections, they have
Yes.
love, they have community, they have
Yes.
safety and security. They're outside joyful, and people have made health like a job that's not fun anymore.
Right. To Jared's point, I think it's on Netflix. If you guys are Netflix people, I think it's called Live to Be 100. Yeah. And I have not seen it yet, but I've had a couple of people on the show, and they've mentioned, and I actually met Dan, the guy that
Oh, yeah.
put the National Geographic book and, studies. And, so if you guys don't know Blue Zones, it's all these places in the world where people live the longest, and they're not the same. That's what I love. Like Okinawa, you're going to have more people eating bok choy and fish, perhaps. Maybe if you're in Sardinia, you might be hiking the mountains, even in your 80s and 90s, but maybe you're eating meat. It's okay. But your family is really close to you. So social is kind of that was the big link. I think in California we have Loma Linda out somewhere east of us, and they are vegetarian and kind of religious, and that's okay too. So I think it's interesting. So it doesn't mean we're not all on the same parameter, but I love that. But what I do want to get back with Jared is the protein, and I think people must. I think I talk about this on almost every show, but I am belaboring the point, because as I worked with Jared on the testing that we'll talk about a little bit. Protein is so huge and so important, but a lot of people they're either not getting enough, not to make them worried, or they don't understand how important it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And
Yeah.
so to that, one of the things I see most common, especially in women, is that they don't eat enough, and they don't eat enough protein.
Yeah.
And they'll wake up in the morning and they'll have a coffee and maybe a scone, or maybe nothing, or maybe a green juice,
Yeah.
and they go off on their day, and then it's lunch and they're having like a salad with a little bit of chicken, and then at night, like they don't get enough.
They
And
rest.
I always tell people, like the whole point of what we do is to help your body support its needs. And every person today is either moving through the day in some way, they're like going to work and doing stuff, but they're also expending energy with thinking, and we're overthinking, and we're always turned on. And we need to replace that, and protein is the building blocks.
Right.
So you can't, and a lot of people, I don't know if you see this in class or whatever, but more and more people have injuries today.
Oh yes.
Shoulders, back, knees, all these things. And protein is the building blocks. It helps us to build and repair. And if you don't get enough, your body doesn't have what it needs to recover. And that's what we were designed to take food from our environment, break it down, to use it to heal and repair. That by design, that's what we do. And if you're not getting enough, you can't do it.
Right. And so guys, I think not everybody has this exact number, but I'm under 110 pounds, okay? So little me, but I'm supposed to eat 100 to 120 grams a day. Now, if you look at an egg, it's only 6,
Yeah.
If you look at maybe 3 or 4 ounces of turkey or something, yeah, you're gonna get your 20, all right? But let's just say you did lunch and you did dinner that way. Well, that's only 40, so what else you gonna do? So it requires
Yeah.
a little thought, I think.
It totally is. And I was
Yeah.
working with a young woman the other day she's a pharmacist, so she works long hours. She has 2 kids. She's constantly going, and she just got shingles. She's tired all the time. She's lethargic. She's dealing with a lot of inflammation. And one of the things I do with my clients is I have them keep a food log for 3 days, just as a way, because our mind has a way to forget and distort
Exaggerate,
things
yes.
when we're just, what did you eat today? Oh, and you'll name things off, right?
Yeah.
But when it's cold, hard facts in front of you, you can't run from it.
32 Teddy Grams.
Yeah. or what? And so we went through her food log, and in a day, okay, she's working out, working 10-hour days, and then taking care of 2 kids. Mm-hmm. She eats less than my 7-year-old son.
Oh man.
How is she going to continue to function? And the shingles shows her immune system is off.
Yeah.
And that's what I teach people a lot, is that the way our body communicates to us is through pain and dysfunction. It's how it gets our attention. So when we feel the acid reflux, when we have the bloating and the gas, or the shingles, or the autoimmune stuff, that's your body way of poking you and saying, hey, listen.
Let's pay attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what people do instead of listening is they take the masking tape, they put it over the check engine light, and it's like, well, if I don't see it, it's not really there.
Right.
And what the body does is, okay, you might have a headache, or you might have something, a little bit of discomfort, and that might be the first warning. But the longer you wait, the more it comes back harder and stronger to try to get your attention.
Yeah.
And I was telling her, like, okay, you're 40, you have youth on your side still, like, you got to take care of this now. And it becomes a whole lifestyle switch. And moms in particular have a hard time taking care of themselves because they take care of the world first.
True.
But we know if we don't take care of ourselves, we have nothing to give. What you don't have, you can't
Right.
share with the world.
Right.
So it becomes a whole reprogramming, but the body gives you the signs. It's just whether you're willing to listen. And unfortunately, Western medicine is great in so many respects, but in terms of it's practicing medicine versus practicing health. You know, you have heartburn, here's an antacid, when in actuality, you need more acid to shut the valve. This is a big difference.
I've heard that from some people. Yeah, I mean, and then I know like citrus will become alkaline in your system, but most people can't have that. Yes, you can. Yeah.
And this goes to the whole debate of the acid alkaline thing, which is a complete myth and so blown out of proportion that it just keeps getting perpetuated, like with Tom Brady and all these people that talk about an alkaline diet.
Yeah.
But when you look at the physiology of how we are,
right,
it doesn't make sense.
I think the body rights itself like every 3 seconds or something like that. And if you're a little too acidic, you're going to go alkaline in just like a nanosecond, right? Just kind of.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, like, because I have a lot of people who come having done, what's the guy, the medical medium.
Oh, okay. Yes, I've seen that.
Yeah,
on
and
Instagram.
he's a very popular guy, and they say, oh, I have to make my body alkaline because that's part of his thing or whatever. It's like, okay, well, what system is alkaline? Is it your blood? Is it your saliva? Is it your digestive system? Like, what are we talking about? No, I just have to be alkaline. Well, your body has a 7.34 pH or 7.43. It has to stay at that pH because a slight deviation, you get sick up or down. So the body's constantly fighting to keep that.
Yeah.
Your stomach acid has to be at a pH of 1 to digest food. So like really, and this is where stuff, you know, so there's all this misinformation out there that just gets, you have a really attractive person who's doing it or finds success, and we never look at the long term. So like, if a person does keto and they lose weight in 6 months and they get to their goal weight, but 2 years from now, they're back to where they were or double, and now they've lost the motivation because that 6 months was so draining on them.
Right.
Did it work?
Right. Yeah.
You know,
That's a tough one.
Yeah, these are all the things that come up for people. So
I think it's tough. Plus, we talked about keto on the show in that, you know, it's so easy if you live a life of, okay, I'm just going to get up, go to work, I've got my life planned, maybe you're single or whatever. But I mean, then there's that cocktail party on Friday night, you know, then there's the holidays, okay? And it's, you can't just cross over and go, okay, I'm going carbs now, I'm going to have carbs, because you can't.
It doesn't,
it's not going to work.
It doesn't work that way. And the fundamental thing of all of these things is, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with Gabor Mate.
No.
Okay, so he's a physician in Canada. He doesn't practice anymore, but he worked in the biggest concentration of addiction in North America in Canada. And he talks about there's a biopsychosocial model of you are an accumulation of everything you've experienced from in your mom's birth, like in your mom's belly, until now. Everything that you've been through, all your traumas, emotional, physical, all your wins and losses, like this is what it's created.
What you got.
And he shows like, okay, when we're children and you have an adult, our biggest thing is to attach to our adult figure, our parent or guardian, because without them we die. And we know that through monkey models, like if baby monkeys aren't held and consoled, they will die because we need affection and attention.
Yes.
And at a very young age, if your mom or your dad, and this is not to blame anyone, but this is just to show.
The real deal, okay.
If your mom or dad is yelling at you or doing something, you will forego yourself to be something else to attach to them. So he gives the example, like I have a 7-year-old son, so my son wants a cookie before dinner. I say, Jaden, you can't have that cookie. He has an emotional breakdown because he really wants that cookie. It's normal, right? Like he's sad he can't have what he wants.
Sure.
So, okay, so I can console him, or I can say, hey Jaden, boys we don't cry, stop crying. And I can make him stuff his feelings and emotion away.
Yes.
So he starts to disconnect from himself. And if you look, in a lot of people who are trying to find health, they've have this disconnection with how they feel. And in my food logs, I ask people to say, how do you feel? Good. Fine. Uncomfortable. But we've lost this connection. And really, health and eating and nutrition is more about how you feel. Are you supporting yourself? Like, let's say you have a long day of interviews and then workouts and clients. Like, are you supporting your body's needs through that day? Or are you just, I'm on keto.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
you're following a plan.
Doesn't matter what you like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or how I feel. Like, I'm
Right.
going to follow this plan.
Yes.
And I'm going to grind out this plan.
Yes.
But all of them disconnect from the most important thing, which is you.
Right.
So I use body temperature and pulse as a feedback mechanism and help people to reconnect with themselves so they know, like I said, I woke up feeling tired. Okay, maybe I need a little more food or a little more rest. Where me 10 years ago would have been like, going to the gym.
Right.
Don't care.
So would you, so you would take your pulse, like what would be like a normal resting then? You know, I'm going to be around 60, 70, whatever the person's beats per minute would be.
So we've kind of glorified fitness, and fitness would say that the lower your resting heart rate is, the better. But there was a doctor named Broda Barnes who said that a normal resting heart rate is between 70 and 85.
Okay.
And what we see with, so I wrote an article and it was called Health and Fitness Are Not the Same Thing. The difference between health and fitness, because fit people are not healthy. You know what I'm saying? Like, so in my
Gotta get after it. Gotta get after it.
In my practice,
Yes.
I do body work on people, and to be able to identify pain and where the pain is in the body and the organs. And the worst people all the time are the trainers and the fitness models, because they will put their body through the craziest things for an aesthetic, and they will forego how they feel. And I had a fitness guy, a model. He was 5% body fat. He was on the cover of all the magazines. You look at him, you know, every guy wanted to be that. Every girl would swoon over that.
Yeah.
He felt terrible. I touch any point on his body just a little bit, he's in pain.
Oh, gosh.
But when you look on Instagram, you see this perfect physique and a smile and
Right.
a thing, and this is my lifestyle.
my
And so you
gosh.
follow that.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you, I was lucky enough to have mentors and use the body work. And my teacher would say, the body never lies. So when I have someone on the table and I work on their body, you can see the pain points.
Yes.
There's nowhere to hide.
Yes.
And the fittest and people with, I can't name names, but millions of followers who are following their fitness protocols, their things, are in the most pain.
Yeah.
They're the worst.
Oh, that's sad. That's really sad.
But you never
Yeah.
see that because it's just the perception on screen.
Right. So all you guys look and go, okay, I don't have to do anything. Thank you, Jared. Right?
It's just finding the balance.
Right. You just gave me the license to not do. Okay. So I'm teasing, but that's a good point. I think that's so interesting. But one thing that Jared does do that I did take, it's called a PNOE, PNOE. If you Google that. I hope it's Googleable.
It is.
It's really, it's a kind of a fascinating test. So it's going to tell you more than one thing. So I'm going to have Jared explain why you would do it and what you're going to get.
Yeah, so usually, the first process is like for people to get to know themselves and learn. But on top of that, there's this system called PNOE. And I think for me, it is when I found it, so the company reached out to me and they were like, hey, we have this test. You wear a face mask, which you breathe into this device, and you're wearing a heart rate monitor. And so it's able to measure the exhale, the gases that come out of your body, and your heart rate at the same time. And it can tell you your macros and all these cool things. And so when they emailed me, I was like, another thing. And I started to look into it. And the way they measure your caloric expenditure, how many calories you burn in a day, is through your breath, your exhale. So I started to look deeper, and I was like, wow, this is the first time that we can measure our breath and our heart rate both so we do one test at rest. You just sit in a chair or you lay down and breathe. And another one is your VO2 max, which is done on a treadmill. Right. And based on both of those tests, it gives you 12 biomarkers. It tells you how fast or slow your metabolism is. It tells you whether you burn carbs or fats more efficiently. And we want to be able to burn fats efficiently at rest and carbs when we exercise. It tells you your lung capacity and how well your lungs do, your heart, risk of diabetes, and then it can give you your breakdown of your macros. So most people who know what macros are, there's your proteins, your carbs, and your fats, and it's become a an equation that based on who you are, your age, all these things, how much of each you should eat during the day to hit your goal. And so now people play the game of, okay, I need this much protein, this much carbs, and this much fat. But they're all guesses based on calculations from the internet. But now you have the ability to know exactly what you need specifically based on your breath. And then when you do the VO2 max test, it can tell you how you should train. And we both know Peter Attia.
Right. Yes.
And for me, what struck me biggest from him was he was on Joe Rogan, and he says that if you can increase your heart health, you decrease all-cause mortality by 5-fold.
That's a lot.
He said if we could put that in a pill,
Yeah.
everybody in the world would take it.
Right.
The issue is, how do you know that you're increasing your heart health? Because most people, when they do cardio, they're like, oh, I'm just going to go for a run or go for a ride. And they probably stay in a comfortable zone for them. They don't really know. And with the PNOE test, you can find out your heart rate zones. So you know what your zone 2 training is. And you know how to interval into zone 4, which Peter Attia says are the 2 parameters that you want to do.
Right.
So it's right on line with everything he talks about in his new book about
Yes.
training your zone 2 once a week or twice a week and your zone 4 in interval training.
Right.
And so now I see people all the time who are in the gym wasting time.
Oh, yes.
Maybe they like that. Maybe it's their social hour. But for most people, I want to get in, I want to get out.
Right.
And I see that people train an hour, 4 days a week, 5 days a week. They're doing their thing. But what if you could be efficient and you could spend half the time in the gym and get the same results? Because all those people that are doing cardio, they're putting in the work, but they're not getting paid for it.
Right, yeah. And guys, if you don't know the zones, zone 2 is more like you're working. It's not like you're not working, but it would be as if I'm on a treadmill. Peter Attia is a physician, and I think I've mentioned him a few times on the show. You would be, let's say you're hiking and you're talking to someone else, and you still might be having a little, not trouble, you're not dying, you're not panting, but it is an effort. That is basically a zone 2, if I'm not, yeah. Now, zone 4, you're gonna be intervaling. I forget what the time frame is on that, but then you would be having a hard time. You're
zone
working,
4 is hard. It's
pushing.
about 4 minutes of
Yeah.
training to resting.
Okay.
But yeah, it's,
Yeah.
you know, it's,
That's tough. But then the other portion of that is the big strength thing that most people aren't
Yes.
doing correctly. Or
Yes.
I don't want to say doing it incorrectly, but you're not getting after the weights. I think people feel if they want to be in shape or lose weight, they've got to do cardio, which is tragic because it's the strength training that increases mass, right?
Yeah.
More mass meaning muscle, the more calories you burn. So strength is generally the way to go on that. So you do want to do both.
yeah. And so in Peter Attia's book, he talks about there's like 3 pillars, which is what the PNOE gives you. And it's like, okay, zone 2 training is your, like you said, your low level. You can talk, but you're moving. And that's where you're going to burn majority of your fat. Then your interval, your zone 4, you're going up to this high place where you're starting to use carbs as energy and come down, and you're increasing that heart rate. And the better your ability to get to a high zone and recover shows your heart health,
Yes.
your ability to recover and how you deal with stress. And then there's the strength portion. And all 3 of them are just as important as the other. And I feel like they're missed over. So people, like let's say I have 1, 2, and 3, people might spend all their time in here. They never really do strength. They never really do long enough zone 2. And they definitely don't do zone 4 because it's hard work.
Right.
So they're kind of missing the thing. And when you look at, so he talks about longevity. And now all the studies, you know, before it was like about fasting. And he even says like, I don't fast as much anymore because I realize like if I want to live to 120 or live longer than normal, my ability to maintain muscle and strength is the predominant thing because we waste muscle as we get older.
Yes.
So he's like, okay, you got to eat the protein and you got to do strength training. And a lot of people stay away from those.
Yes.
I'm sure you see it all the time.
Oh, yes. And I think I had a guy on, and he's in his 70s, and he's super fit. And he said, I went and got a DEXA scan, and he goes, even me working at it, and this is a doctor of nutrition, you know, he's got a PhD in nutrition. He goes, I still lost 6 pounds of muscle. And he goes, and I'm killing it. You know, I play tennis every day, which is not the same. That's just fun. But he strength trains and eats pretty much a low carb, you know, predominantly protein oriented, you know, good carb diet. And he goes, so folks, you just have to keep going.
Yeah.
You got to keep going.
Yeah.
It's tough.
And there's different ways to do your strength, of course, but to get it done. And I think that's the value. So that's why when this company came to me and then I researched, I was like, it's a no-brainer, because if you're in the gym, these are all the things you need to know. And I really wanted to create an idea of health that's kind of a set it and forget it. Because so many people are wrapped into their training and their workout and their health. And they think about it takes a huge part of their brain, you know,
Right.
all their food and all. So with the PNOE test, you get your nutrition kind of set, and you get a meal plan, and you get all these things kind of set for you. You understand what heart rate zones to train at. You don't have to think about it anymore.
Right.
And you know, okay, what days I need to go in strength training, which you can either do on your own or get with a trainer once a week. And then you can hands off.
That's
like I
it.
go in, I do my work,
Go enjoy your life.
and go, get out and go play, because we
Yeah.
live outside the gym.
Right, we hopefully do. The PNOE food thing, guys, it's an app, and when you get your test, then there's another gentleman that calls you and talks to you about what your results are. And then, so let's say you might need more protein, little Lori, and then it'll suggest to you what a typical breakfast would be. But they ask you, hey, do you like beets, or what don't you like? So it's not a question of you have to eat these foods. It's more, no, we'd like you to eat the foods that you normally eat. So we're going to try to computerize that and weave it into your day. So if you don't like that breakfast, you nix that one, and then it'll show you a different one so that you can stay on point.
Yeah. So when you got your test and you realized, like, okay, I need to do more protein, was it hard for you to
Yes, it's still hard.
Okay.
It's hard every day, because
Yeah.
I think people inordinately want to, I do like to eat something in the morning. I don't want to eat protein in the morning. I just don't.
Yeah.
So what I do, I make artisan bread, which is kind of a sourdough, wheat, whatever. I slather it with nutso, and now I've been adding a couple slices of turkey, or even
Great.
smoked salmon, which is hilarious. Smoked salmon with peanut butter or nut butter. Okay, but trust me, it's kind of good. It's got a good mouthfeel. That kind of does get me going. Yeah. The hardest part is sneaking that smoothie in. For some reason, my body doesn't love the smoothie, but it's got the most protein. It'll do the 20 grams of whey, and then I'll put whole yogurt in it, and it's another 8-9 grams, and so I try to do that. And then I do make a roll up that has the roll up is cheese, so
Okay.
it's like Folio, I think is the brand. But so then you do your turkey, your salmon, whatever it is, and you roll it with lettuce or sauerkraut or whatever, and you use the cheese. So you kind of bonused it. Yeah, dinner you don't have a problem. I always have some sort of protein going on. Yeah, so that's kind of it. But if I miss that morning thing, then even at that, I think I'm not quite there. You know what I mean? I still have to. So what I have been doing, thanks for asking, Jared. Somebody said this, because if you wake up in the middle of the night, this is another kind of a crummy thing. We eat super early. So my husband's on East Coast time, so he has to get up at 3:30 in the morning. But I find that I wake up right around that time. And it's not his alarm that's waking me. It's I think I'm hungry. I think it spikes cortisol. I'm awake. And then all you have to do is start thinking, right? And then you're in trouble. So I have been taking a half a scoop of protein powder with coconut water before I go to bed. So I just added more protein. Yeah, and I noticed I got another hour. And I got more protein. So I know it's a journey.
Yeah, I think that's actually a common thing, that people wake up between 1:30 and 3:30, because that's the time where the body lets go of it doesn't have enough sugar or enough stuff, and so it will send a signal to the adrenal glands.
Yes.
And you're up.
Yeah, if you start thinking, you're in trouble.
Yeah. And one of the things I talk to my clients a lot about is, we're so fixated on sleep, because no one really gets enough. Everyone's wired and tired. And the first thing people do, you'll Google, what do I do for sleep? And it's like, okay, melatonin, magnesium, turn off your lights an hour, all these things. But in reality, how you live and take care of your body during the day is a reflection of how you sleep at night.
I'll bet.
And so a lot of people are going and not eating enough, or over caffeinating, and like all those things affect their sleep. So for instance, I have a guy in Sweden right now who was diagnosed chronic fatigue syndrome, really bad for years, and they put him on anti-anxiety, all these depression medications, and we've just been working on his food during the day. He's resting now. He has sleep. Like everything is pretty simple. We've just found ways to overcomplicate it.
Gosh, I'll have to hook you up with my sister's who's had that forever. And I kind of almost think, and she sort of admitted, is it easier to have it because sometimes you don't have to participate in parts of life you don't want? And she said it could be, but I also know she's a very, very active brain, very active person, not necessarily workout girl because she's got chronic fatigue, but
type A.
Yes, she's just doing very too busy, over busy mind. So I always feel really bad about that, because that's obviously got to be sad and hard.
It is, and that's a good point, because when I got into doing the work that I do, I was like, I had stomach issues. I met with a mentor who taught me how to heal myself, which is powerful because now it puts the responsibility and the power back in me. So if someone heals you, then they have the power. But so like I learned that my body can heal itself. And then that gave me power and confidence to believe in my body. And what most people do is they feel like they're either victims or like it just happened to them. And unfortunately, I don't think our body works like that. So I have a strong belief that our body really wants health. It wants to move to health. And when someone is sick or going through a condition, that it's their body responding appropriately to the conditions and the situation it's been put in.
Yes.
And when the situation and things change, the condition changes.
That's so good.
But people feel like, oh, I don't know why this is happening to me, or this is terrible. And they feel like their body is sabotaging them. But it's not. It's working
Trying to send a signal.
Yeah, it's working for them. We don't have that mind frame. You know?
So then let's tie it up then into that time then to go within. Do you do meditation? Do you feel like it has its place? Is it more journaling? What would you say to your people? What is that time?
I think it really depends on the person, because a person who's never meditated, to get them to meditate could be a stress. And it could be another thing they have to do. But what every person can do, whether it's with their kids or at a job or whatever they're doing, is they can step outside, they can get into nature or just sunlight and just take a deep breath and just feel even the anxiousness. Like just that moment of breath is enough to put space on them and whatever they're going through. And that's the start. Like that's what we have to start. So it's very basic stuff. It's like simple breathing or just taking a little extra space or saying no to things. How hard is it for people to say no?
That's true.
It's so hard. So I have people do an exercise where they will write down all the things that they've made commitments to and look at, are those things people, friends, family members serving them or stealing from them?
Oh, nice.
And we start there and we start eliminating. So it's simple. Like when we're kids, life is about I get to go to Disneyland. I get to go to the park today. As adults, it's I have to do this.
Right.
I have to do that. And so where did the shift change? And why do we feel the responsibility to do things that, I mean, you have to feed your kids.
Right.
You have to take care of the house. But like, aside from the essentials, stop saying yes.
That's so good.
Say yes to yourself.
Right along those lines, this bad boy, right? I heard a guy the other day, and I thought, I think it's might have been Sean Stevenson. I don't know if you guys know the
He's
Model
great,
Home Show.
yeah.
So good. They were, or it could have been Lewis Howes is another one, but one of them was talking about, I think it was Lewis Howes on this one, in case you guys are looking at podcast people. Sean had one on plastic. Please listen to that. You'll never microwave in plastic again. In
Or
the
water
microwave.
bottles in the sun.
Or water bottles.
Oh,
Try to get glass.
kills
Yes,
me.
that's a whole other thing. But this one was about the amount of time. If let's say you're typing on a computer and you're working on a document and you're hard at work, and the email pops up in the corner, because that's what it does if you bother to turn that on first when you've turned on your computer. That interruption, because you just glanced up, will put you behind 20 minutes. Think about how many emails you might get in an hour.
Oh,
so
geez.
that's incredible. But the person had said, and I wish I could cite who it was, I apologize, that when you're looking at these things, not only email or Instagram or whatever, basically this person who's kind of a geeky guy on our own time and enjoying it, that it is okay to be bored. It is beneficial for you to be bored, because if you pick this up when you're bored, what you're saying to your brain is, bored is bad, I need to be productive, I need to be doing something. So then you're not allowed to do zero things. Zero things is bad, when in fact that is quite the opposite.
True.
So the emphasis on the next time you're eating by yourself, or you had a moment, maybe you say, I will now take breaks with this thing, maybe only 3 times a day. And I think that's a lot, but you're thinking kids go to school with them now. There's tablets, there's phones.
Yeah.
Then the whole point of being able to deep think, meaning I'm going to sit down and do something for an hour, and the only thing I'm going to do is this one thing, and there is no other interruption. Our brains are no longer wired that way. We're only wired to, better pick this up because I have nothing right now. And that is a tragedy. So that could lead into other things in our life, which is why I brought that up.
It's true. And
so sad.
Can I share a couple things on that?
Yes,
Because
yes.
it's a great point. I think first off is that when we are constantly doing, we are expending. So imagine like I have a bank account. So if I'm doing stuff, I'm all day just spending. And the way I put money back into my bank account, we know is sleep and we know is rest. And when it comes to the nervous system, it's the fight or flight response. So I know that if I'm breathing through my nose, I'm telling my body it's safe, my nervous system can calm down. If I'm breathing through my mouth, it's a fight or flight response. So how we do these little mundane tasks send signals to our body. Same thing with being on our phone. When my eyes look at the periphery, that's a relaxed state. I'm looking at a big picture. But when I'm constantly focused here, that's a fight or flight. Because when you go into fight or flight, people talk about tunnel vision.
Oh, yes.
So it's signaling to our body these things. And when you look at animals, so I have a dog, as do you. And if we look at your dog, she's over there.
Laying down,
doing absolutely nothing. She is checked out and completely relaxed. What do? Oh. Social media, Instagram, Tinder, Bumble, emails. Yeah, what am I going to do? Who am I going to look at today? What's another information I can get? So our nervous system never gets fully relaxed. We never put money back into our bank account. And this is a tragedy. And on that, I was just listening to this guy who wrote a book about happiness. He's got a degree in consciousness, and he talks about how to hack happiness because of the way our mind is programmed. And he talks about this system that we have that if you wake up in the middle of the night and you smell gas, you need to get up and turn it off right away. Because the way our nervous systems work is if you stay in it too long, our body loses the desensitization of it. So now we no longer smell it. So it's the frog in the pot. You know, if the water goes up slowly, the frog has nothing to compare it to. It will boil and die. Our nervous systems are the same. So we keep slowly turning up the volume, and we wonder why we turn around one day and we're stressed on anti-anxiety meds. You know, we have mental break. It's because we don't have this clear slap in the face.
Yes.
It's a slow burn.
Yes.
And before you know it, you turn around and your life is a mess. You feel chaotic. You don't know what you're doing. You're all over the place. You can't recover.
Absolutely.
And so this idea of the nervous system is such a huge piece.
It is. When I left news, I think a year and a half ago too, and there was such an inbox, right? You're in a newsroom, and so people are pitching constantly. Looking at email in the morning, the first thing you do is just log onto your computer before you start a script or before you're going out to shoot something, and here's 200 pitches at you. That's just in the morning, right? It's so tough. So then think about not being there anymore. So the very next day, and this was during COVID, so I basically had my retirement party during Zoom. You know, it was a very kind of pathetic, tragic. We miss you. Okay, thank you. Anyway, but the point is, wow, it was as if I was deaf. Suddenly there was no energy coming in at me, and you're not used to that. So it's kind of nice, guys, to really take heart to what Jared's saying, to listen to, well, we're not listening to ourselves, but have the ability to listen to ourselves. I think that's so cool, because we might be singing a different song and not knowing it.
Yeah, and we've been so conditioned to the everyday thing that we don't even see it anymore.
No, I agree. It's crazy. This has been so great. Is there anything else you want to tell me that I didn't ask you?
No, I think for people that are listening, I think it's keep it simple. Get more fresh air. Move in a way that supports you and doesn't make you feel so sore or hurt. You know, if you're doing that daily, take time for yourself. Eat whole foods. I think keep it simple. And
Yes. Your speaking of not going online to look, but your Instagram is
so it's either, I think it's Jared Tavasolian, my name.
okay.
And my business name is Heal Strong.
Okay. If somebody wanted to do the PNOE and they were not in California, would they do something in their area and hook up with you, or how would that go?
Yeah, it depends on if they have a facility where they have a couple people that wanted to do it. I would come to them.
Okay.
Or I would find a partner.
All right.
Possibly, depending on where they are, they could get
right.
somebody to go out there.
And is that kind of about $500? Is that what it was?
About
Full
yeah,
deal?
about there.
It's pretty worth it, guys, if you have the extra. It's pretty neat to know yourself in that
Yeah, I
way.
agree.
By the way, I'm the best in lung health. I just have to say, I was so proud of myself. I think the guy said, I've never seen a score that high. Yes. I did have a chain of exercise studio, aerobic studio, so I think my heart was in condition for that, so that was good. But the food thing, big shocker. So
Yeah, it's great. It's great to learn all that information and
right.
about yourself. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
joining us, guys. We will see you on the Malibu studio again real soon.